Okay, so in the last video, we calculated our variable cost per unit for shipping expense and salary and commission expense, recognizing that they were our mixed costs and realizing that we had to separate fixed and variable costs. So we've come up with the variable cost per unit by, remember, dividing the change in dollars by the change in units. And we did the same thing here for salaries and commissions. And we came up with the fixed costs by taking our high cost and subtracting the high number of units times our variable cost per unit. So now we can come up with a mixed cost function that we can use at any level of activity in this relevant range. In other words, unless something changes. So the mixed cost function is essentially the algebraic equation for a line, okay, which is y equals mx plus b. So we can change it around and we could say y equals b plus mx. So we're going to say here that the b are the fixed costs, the m is the variable cost per unit, the x is the volume of activity, and the y is the total cost. So our mixed cost function for shipping expense is going to be y equals 52,000, right? I'm sorry, 10,000. That is our fixed costs, right? Plus a variable cost of $3 per unit, x. So at any level within this relevant range, we can come up with what our total cost would be for shipping expense. And we can do the same thing for salary and commissions expense. So we can say y equals 110,000, that is our fixed costs, plus $2.50 times our activity level. So that is our mixed cost function. Okay, so this is important because then we can plug in any activity level and come up with our total cost. So now we're asked to do the contribution margin format income statement, and we almost always do this at the high level. So here we could see this was a traditional income statement, right? Sales, cost of goods sold, and then our expenses and net income. Now we want to reformulate this into our contribution margin format. So our sales revenue, that should be the same as it was up here. Remember, we're doing this at the high level, okay? So we have 1,540,000. Our variable expenses include cost of goods sold, which was 1,078,000. Remember, when we do a contribution margin format, we're not getting gross profit or gross margin. We're taking sales minus our variable expenses to give us contribution margin. So what is our variable expense for shipping? It's going to be the $3 per unit times the high number of units. So we're going to take the $3 per unit times the 42,000 units. I'm sorry, the 14,000 units. That's 42,000. Okay? And then for salaries and commissions expense, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the $2.50 per unit times the 14,000 units. Is going to give us 35,000. So our total variable expenses are going to equal 1,000,000 $155,000 in our contribution margin, if you recall, is sales minus variable costs or expenses. So our contribution margin is $385,000. Now, when it comes to fixed expenses, we calculated fixed shipping expense up here at $10,000 here, and then we put in the mixed cost function. Advertising we knew was a fixed expense to begin with. Okay, that's $80,000. Salaries and commissions, again, another fixed cost. Mixed cost, and we calculated the fixed portion of that, okay, of $110,000, and then we put that in the mixed cost function. Our insurance expense, that was a fixed cost at $27,000, and depreciation was also a fixed cost at $5,000. So our total fixed expenses come up to $232,000. So our net income, when we do the contribution margin income statement, our net income is contribution margin minus total fixed expenses. So we have net income of $153,000, okay, which happens to be the same up here. That's not always the case, as we'll learn about in Chapter 21. That's the high-low method, which includes the mixed cost function. So thank you again for your attention.